Greetings, Otaku Faithful. Thank you for joining me again this week. Once again, it's Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief, and I'm here to bring you a special, extra discussion of the week video segment right here on Otaku Assemble! Weekly. As always, I'm here to bring you the latest in this week's discussion of the week video. Now, as I mentioned in my previous discussion of the week video, the one in which I uploaded yesterday, I mentioned that unfortunately, because of the hectic schedule I've been having in the past 2 weeks, I have not had adequate enough time to prepare for my manga of the month and my anime of the month videos for January. Now, I want to go ahead and let you all know now that once again, I apologize for that, but those 2 videos will be back in February with my first impressions review of Battle Royale, the manga, first impressions review of Black Lagoon, the anime. So, once again, I do apologize for that. Those videos will be back in February, so keep an eye for them. But because I had I had to do an upload for Saturday, as you all know, I have previously uploaded my discussion of the week for this week, which was, of course, my take on racial and ethnic identity in anime and manga. But there was another suggestion that I got, somewhat of a little questionnaire that one of you all posted in the comments of last week's discussion of the week. Actually, this thing should not have gone off. I apologize for that. I just need to go ahead and set this sucker right. Okay, we're all good. But this special discussion of the week video, this is coming courtesy of YouTube username Cloudist, CLOWDIST. In case you're watching this, I really do appreciate this suggestion. This is somewhat of a questionnaire. The overall discussion topic is, why do you write comic books? Talking about me. And it's somewhat of a little questionnaire. Now, like I've stated multiple times before in the past, when I have told you all about my writing, I have to keep it relatively bleak. I have to keep it vague because, of course, you know, I'm uploading this on YouTube. This is going out into the interwebs. Anyone who sees this video, they can get a hold of it. And of course, I can't let you all know my ideas on YouTube because that's how easy it is to get stolen. Like I said, I'm trying to make a career of this, so I'm not going to do something that's going to jeopardize that. However, some of these questions in the questionnaire, these are more of not so much what it is I'm writing, as it is why it is I'm writing. So I decided to go ahead and take a stab at these questions. These are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 questions. So I'll see how fast I can run through this, and hopefully what I hope that you all will take from this video, especially those of you who are inspiring writers, inspiring artists, inspiring mangaka, I hope that you all will take from this that even though this is, because let's talk about this. Comic books, manga, we love it to death, but let's face it, when it comes to the entertainment industry, it's not the end-all be-all. It's not the biggest thing out there. Now, of course, comic books and manga have contributed hugely to what is now known as pop culture, but the industry, it is difficult to get into. Hell, becoming a comic book writer or a comic book artist is damn near, within the comic book industry, is the same thing as becoming an actor, a singer. It's very hard to do. What I hope that you all will get from this video, from hearing me and listening to my past experiences, is hopefully I will motivate you all or influence some of you all to continue pushing for that dream. Because many of times you will get discouraged. You will get people that'll say, oh, this just isn't good, or this, that, and the other. But at the end of the day, keep in mind, I want to use a quote, one of my favorite quotes. It actually comes from the song "Go" by Flo. For any of you Naruto fans, you'll know that's the third Naruto opening. And the lyric goes, "Don't forget your first impulse ever." I absolutely love that quote. I actually want to get that quote tattooed in kanji, but it's going to cost me a pretty penny to get that custom made. But anyway, but the whole idea behind the quote, "Don't forget your first impulse ever," is don't forget what that first impulse, that first instinct, that first thing that made you want to become a writer or an artist in the first place. You have to hold on that. You have to hold on to it, because if you don't, you will allow people to take that away from you, and they don't have the right to. So, with that said, let's jump into this questionnaire. Now, why do I write comic books? Easy. I write comic books because I love comic books. Like many other people my age, I grew up, born in '89, I grew up in the '90s. And for any of you all who are comic book aficionados, you'll know that the '90s kind of was the new boom for comic books, as it were. When comic books kind of started to die out a tad bit in the early '80s, and then towards the end of the '80s was when the train started rolling again. And by the '90s, the comic book industry started to boom again, because by the '90s we started getting animated television shows, we started getting movies, and merchandising for these characters got out of the box. So, of course, I grew up in that generation. I grew up with Batman the Animated Series, Superman the Animated Series, X-Men the Animated Series, Spider-Man the Animated Series. I grew up with the Hulk Fox series, Iron Man Fox series, Silver Surfer, even though it only lasted like one season, Batman Beyond, the New Adventures of Batman and Superman, Justice League Unlimited, Teen Titans. You know, these were the cartoons. Oh, and of course, like Smallville, a live action series, that god awful Birds of Prey live action series. You know, and then of course the old Wonder Woman and Hulk TV series. You know, I grew up in this culture, and then of course by the time I got into 4th grade, 5th grade, that's when I got introduced into anime, and then of course manga. So the reason why I like to write comic books is because, well, I like to write, period. But what comic books offer that novels don't, comic books offer the visual. Because I like being able to read something and imagine what you think it would look like. But I like that aesthetic. I like that feeling so much that what gives me a high when I'm writing comics. Because I am both a writer and an artist, but currently I'm working only as a writer. And when I'm writing the story and I envision what it looks like in my head, and then I write it down on paper, you know, and then I give it to my artist, and then he draws it out, like that creative feeling, I get a high off of that shit. So I mean, that's why I write comic books. I think also, for the longest time, I think comic books have been shafted as a legitimate literary medium. I think that a lot of people do not take comic books as seriously as they should be considered, because let's face it, we've had multiple comic books that are on par with novels. I'm talking about, you know, Watchmen. I'm talking about All-Star Superman, Sandman. Let's see. What is the name of that? Is it American Vampire? I think it is. But yeah, there have been many comics that I feel are on par with novels, but I don't feel like they get the V for Vendetta, of course. But I don't think they get enough. They don't get their just due. So what I would like to achieve as a comic book writer is actually to produce work that would legitimize comic book stake as a literary medium, to make work that will force people to acknowledge it, you know. And also, my biggest dream, my biggest goal is to influence the next generation to come after me, because there's a question that talks about my influences, and I'll bring this back up when I discuss that. But to influence someone else is a very powerful thing, and I would like to influence others just like I was influenced. So, what genres are you writing? The genres that I usually work in are usually fantasy and supernatural. I'm not big of a sci-fi person, and when I say sci-fi, I mean stories that require a lot of tech or a lot of knowledge on science. I enjoy genres that that can expand the reader's disbelief. You know. So I enjoy supernatural stories because I'm a huge fan of mythology. I'm pretty well versed in it also because I've studied mythology before. But also I enjoy historical fiction. I enjoy crime dramas, mystery. I'm not that big of a horror guy. I'm not that big of a horror genre person. Not really. I mean, I like supernatural stories, but I'm talking about like stories that really do take a horrific tone. I'm not big fans of that genre. What is it about? Can you give anything away? Unfortunately, as I stated before, I can't. Can't give anything away of about any of the work I'm working on. What tips can you give to inspiring comic book writers? The best tips I can give to inspiring comic book writers: write what you know. Write what you know. You will find that your knowledge pool, your cultural capital is the academic term for it. Your cultural capital, meaning the accumulation of knowledge you have acquired through reading, through watching, through writing, through learning. Everything, all the skills that you have acquired about writing, and all of the knowledge that you have, everything you know about, say, culture, mythology, history, all of that compiles into your cultural capital. You will find that your cultural capital is the greatest asset to you as a writer. It is a lot easier for you to write what you know. Case in point, a story I wrote one time, it is still an ongoing project that I've shelved for a while. It's semi-autobiographical. And I was able to write the first chapter of that in a night. I just knocked it out. The reason why it was so easy was because most of the story was coming from my personal life experiences. You will find that that's one of the biggest wells you can draw from. It's from personal experience and knowledge. What is your experience with writing a comic book? What are my experiences with writing comic books? I have written multiple comic books. And I'm not talking about anything from the professional level. I'm just talking about throughout my lifetime, I've written many comic books. I had a 4-part X-Men series that I did in 5th grade. That was 4 books that I wrote, but that was more of like a storybook format rather than a comic book format. In 7th grade, I developed another series of 4 books, along with me and my good friend Akeem. We were both writers and artists, and we both had our own comic book series. And then towards the end of 7th grade, we did a crossover, and a lot of our friends really did like it. So that was middle school. I did those 4 books, and then when I got into high school, I started my first manga, and that series had the original issue, the reboot or the rewrite, which was the second one, the second issue, the 3rd issue, the 4th issue. Did I get that 5th issue done? No, I think I went 4 issues. So yeah, it was a total of 5 books, but like I said, there was a rewrite. So 4 issues, and then I did another rewrite my senior year in high school. And that, so that's a total of 6 books for that entire series. And then of course, as far as writing comic books, since then, I went back to rewrite that story, which I have dropped now. I've written another series, which I am turning into a novel. Another series, the one I mentioned earlier, which I've shelved that. And currently, I am now working on 2 more stories for American comic books. So book-wise, where I was both the artist and the writer, we're talking about since I was a kid. That's 6, 4, 4. 14 books, and then since I've been in college, I've written stories for 5 series, which would be a total of 19 stories in total. What do you use as inspiration? What I use as inspiration, I use any story that intrigues me, whether it's an anime, manga, comic books, cartoons, movies, music. I use music a lot as inspiration. Lyrics for music. When I'm listening to music and I listen to the lyrics, a lot of music, it has a narrative. So the lyrics for that will paint a picture in my head of a narrative, and then that will inspire me to create the story the way I see it. In a way, it's my interpretation of what the song means, you know? Yeah, music is a huge inspiration for me as a writer. Huge. What comic writers do you look up to? Frank Miller, Alan Moore. Yes, Frank Miller and Alan Moore are two of my biggest comic book influences. Comic book influences, American comic book influences, of course, Alan Moore, Neil Gaiman, Frank Miller. I'm also a huge fan, of course, the greats, Stan Lee, Jack Kirby. Those go without saying. Of course, the grandfathers of comics, which a lot of people would disagree with me about this, but Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, the creators of Superman, Bob Kane, the creator of Batman, Steve Ditko, what's his first name? Sterango, the creator of Nick Fury. Sterango, huge inspiration. Let's see, I'm trying to think of any other ones. More recent ones, especially like J. Michael Straczynski. I love his work. So yeah, but also outside of other American comic book writers, authors that I'm inspired by. Like I said, my favorite author is Ursula K. Le Guin. Hugely inspired by her work. I love her work. Well, I want to put George R.R. Martin on my list, but I haven't read any of the Song of Ice and Fire books, so that would be a little stretching. But Game of Thrones has inspired me. That series has inspired me. That series showed me that you really could do a serious, you could take a fantasy story and have serious real world implications in said story. You know, you could make a political fantasy story. I'd never seen anything like that before Game of Thrones. Film is a huge inspiration for me. People in the film industry that I believe are true artists of their craft. You're talking about Del Toro. You're talking about, well, I say Del Toro because I can never pronounce his first name. I'm talking about the director, not Benicio Del Toro, the director. I want to pronounce it, but I don't want to offend Mr. Del Toro by horribly mispronouncing his name. But as far as like art direction, man, you're talking about Joe Johnston. Rick Baker. I absolutely love Rick Baker as a makeup artist in film. He is fantastic. Of course, there are multiple actors and actresses I can name. Writers, you're talking about the Nolans, you're talking about the Coens. So many names I'm messing up. They're just leading me. But this is what happens when you do videos off the cuff. And I'm gonna try to hurry up and wrap this up. Does anime and manga influence the kind of art and style you want in your comic book? It used to. When I was a mangaka, it had a heavy influence on my artwork, especially Akira Toriyama's artwork. That was the artwork that I tried mimicking the most, and by the time I became a senior in high school, that's when I decided that after I studied his art style, I decided not to follow it because the anime and manga art style is so stylized that I really didn't want to do that anymore. Yeah, and that's it. That covers all the questions. So to Cloudus, I want to thank you for your suggestion. And to any, like I said, to any and all of my inspiring writers and artists, I hope that this video has given you some insight into a fellow writer and artist, because I know a lot of people might look at me on YouTube and think, oh, Larry, this guy's larger than life type shit. But I'm an average dude. Well, not average, but I'm a normal guy just like you all. I struggle with stories. Any of you all who follow me on Facebook, y'all know that for a fact. I struggle with stories. I struggle with writing. I struggle with artwork just like you may have. And yes, I know that currently the projects I'm working on, I am pushing those to get either published by big name companies or self-published. But I'll be going through the trenches just along with you guys too. So like I said, don't feel discouraged about it. We're in this thing together. Even though someday, some of you all who's writing, because I know, like, my man, shout out to my man Justin. I know he's a comic book artist and writer, and Justin one day will become competition, but friendly competition. So but yeah, so with that said, I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna wrap this video up. I want to thank you all once again. In the comments below, let me know what you think, and also leave comments for suggestions for next week's discussion of the week in this video. But with that said, this is Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief, signing off. Stay tuned for my Comic Book Hollywood review of Batman Under the Red Hood. And until next time, peace.